Welcome to our channel. I'm really glad you're here. I'm Mike with ZippySnap, and I hope we can craft a kinder, more creative world together. Today we're going to be making this ice cream dispenser. One of my favorite parts about this is it goes very well with our ice cream cone holder and our ice cream that we've been making. You just put the ice cream in the dispenser, and when you turn the knob, out comes ice cream. So it's a really fun project. On the difficulty meter, I give this a 5 out of 5. This means that this is an advanced craft. We're going to go through it step by step, and you can download this craft template from zippysnap.com. The tools we're going to be using today are scissors and tape. You may want a paper cutter as well. So with these tools nearby, let's get to crafting. So my favorite part about this craft is you can put the ice cream in the top, and then once you turn the lever, the ice cream comes right out. It's an advanced craft for sure, but it's well worth it if you have the patience to build it. So I'm going to put the ice cream tower back here, the cone station, and let's get to crafting. So one thing I'm going to get right ahead of time is I'm going to get the paper cutter, because there's a lot of parts to cut on this, and to save some time, I'm going to go ahead and just start cutting them. So these are our image panels that will be on the outside. We're just going to go ahead and cut these image panels, and it just goes a little quicker with a paper cutter. You can of course use scissors. I'm just doing this to save a little bit of time. And then when you get to these parts right here, I'm also going to use the paper cutter on these parts. It is important to note on this page, these two have guides on them. We'll set those over to the right. They're the same size as these, which we'll set over here on the right side, but the other one's on the left side, just so we keep them organized. And you don't have to be super precise. I wouldn't worry too much about that. You see, I'm not the most precise paper cutter here with this machine, but you do just want to make sure the roll edges, where it says roll edge, that's the side we want. And I'm going to show you a trick. I'm going to keep these two joined, even though they showed a cut apart. I'm going to keep them joined there. Once you get to this part, other than I'm going to cut this fold part out here, I'm going to show you another trick to save a little bit of time. We're going to cut these like this. You do want to be a little bit precise on these ones. These are they're labeled blade, and they're what make the ice cream dispense or come out. Same here. We're going to cut this, and now you're just saying, "Wow, this is an advanced craft." There's a lot of prep. There is a lot of prep. We try to make it easy for you, just so you could see. There's this template guide. It's very important that the template guide be cut precisely. But there are a lot of components with this one. That's why we called it an advanced craft. But it's worth doing. I'm going to save this to cut a little bit in a second. And you're just going to see we're just making lots and lots of cut pieces of paper. Throw all the excess over there. And these two pieces, I'm going to just set aside. We'll come back to cut those in a minute. And then these are just full, just pieces of paper cut in half. All right, I'm going to set the paper cutter back over there. And first thing we're going to do is we're going to kind of go over kind of what our components are. So we have 4 11-inch pipes. What they are these pieces of paper right here. It says roll edge. The roll edge is the edge where we're going to roll them, and we're going to roll them into pipes. So to roll them, I like to fold a small portion, fold it a second time, and then we're just going to roll. Now, I know what this piece is, and that's why I didn't roll it the other way, where you could see where it said roll edge, because that wasn't important to me. But I put a piece of tape in the middle. Now I'm going to put a piece of tape on the top. So there's 3 places I like to put tape on these are 11 inches long, the full length of a piece of paper. I put them 1, 2, 3 pieces of tape. So we'll do the same here, and we're going to do it 4 times. So we'll have 4 of these. And if you remember what the dispenser looked like, it's really tall. So these will be the tall portions of the dispenser that make it so tall. And it gives it a little bit of structural stability, which just means it's real strong. Because a single sheet of paper standing up isn't very strong, but when you roll the piece of paper, so we roll, we fold, just do 2 folds, roll. When all of that paper is rolled up, it gets stronger. It's a lot stronger. And you can use this to build lots of fun projects. It takes a few minutes to get all these pieces of paper rolled, but then the opportunities are endless as to what you want to do. And I'd love to hear some things you build out of paper and tape. I'd love for you to share with us on our channel or on our Facebook page. I'm not really a social media person, but I'd love to hear from you if I can figure out how to use it. So we now have 4, and then one thing I told you I was going to show you was basically we have the same roll edges. You'll see it on some of these other pieces. We then have 4.25 inch pieces. So you'll see this is a long one that we didn't quite do. I didn't cut the middle yet. So if I flip it over, I can roll it like this. And I didn't do the double fold. I just did a single fold, so it started getting a little loose on me. And then you see, I can see the line right there. Now, because this is going to be 2 pieces, I'm going to cut this right in the middle. I'm going to put a piece of tape in the middle of each of these individually, just so that they're going to hold up when I do this. There we go. So now we have, that's a 4.25 inch. So you'll see we have a lot of those. So we're just going to roll them. And I could have cut the paper a little differently, saved a little bit of time, but I didn't. So I'm going to kind of roll them a little bit quick. And feel free, just make sure that you're always rolling on the side that says roll edge, because if you roll on the side that doesn't say roll edge, they'll be the wrong height. We're trying to keep them all the same shape, so that's why they're a specific size. Because they're all, they're all going to work together. I don't know have you ever seen a house that hasn't been built? The siding, the outside's not quite on, but it's still being built. It's in the process of being built. And there's wood, and they're called studs. They're in the middle. That's kind of what these are for us. We don't have the outsides on yet. We're kind of making a building. And it's very similar to wood, similar home building. And we're almost there. And you notice I'm just putting them on the center, the tape on the center there. I'm not even putting them on the top and bottom like I was doing on the bigger ones, because how I'm going to tape it to the structure in the next step, we'll put tape in those areas that are not there right now. All right. So these, you should have 8 or 9. I have 9. So we have 9 of the 4.25 inch pipes. And then these are our 2 special ones. They're the exact same dimension, but they have markings. So we want to be very careful. And what you can do too is if you put tape on the bottom side, that's the mark on the mark side, and then roll it this way, you don't have to go get the tape while rolling. You just roll it right in there. Same way here. And one says bottom, one says top. I actually did that one wrong. They're the same. The bottom and top are the same. You just need to remember, we're going to put these 2 markers in a specific part of the structure. So we have these 2. So these are our 2 special. We have those. And now we have our guide. So our guide we're going to use here in a minute. I'm just going to trim up this bottom. You'll see the bottom's down here. We need it to be a precise height in the future. So we're just going to trim that up. And then these are going to be our ramps. So in our dimension here, these 2 ramps, those are these 2 pieces. And I'm going to do what I did on the other ones, and I'm going to cut it in a second so that I don't have to roll 2 pieces of paper. individually. I'll save a little bit of time, so I'm just going to roll those together. And then, because this is going to be two separate pieces of paper, I'm going to put one in the center, and then I'm going to put one in what will be the center of this piece, a piece of tape, and then same with the piece of tape there. So now we can cut right on that line, and these are our ramps. Now I didn't label them. I didn't fold it in a way where you can see ramp, but they're going to be right there. This is going to be our lever. So there's a lever that's coming through. Our lever piece is going to be this piece right here, and I didn't cut it out because there are lever straps. And in fact, we'll set this aside. We'll come back to the lever and the ramps. We'll put those together. We don't need to do everything in this step. And then I also put those two guide pieces right over there. So that's a good way to keep it, and put the ramp, the instruction. So basically we'll have these items all set apart. And then same with these folds and blades. We're going to just set these all together and set them off to the side. Because what we want to do right now is we want to build the structure. And the best way to build the structure is we're going to make a rectangle. We're going to actually make two rectangles, but we'll start with one. So when we make that rectangle, it's going to look an awful lot like this. And if you watched our cone stand video, you'll know exactly what we're about to do. So I'm going to put on that edge that I didn't tape earlier, I'm going to put a piece of tape, and then put this edge right there, and put that piece of tape over. Now, it's not supposed to be super strong at this point. We're going to do what I call a collar. We're going to put this piece of tape right here and wrap it around where that piece of tape just went. So the first piece of tape, which is this piece, is kind of just there to hold this in the correct position. It's not going to be very strong. What makes it strong is this second piece of tape, what I call a collar, and it'll go here. And I call these pipes. And we'll do the same on this side. So we'll do a long piece. With my tape bunched up. We don't need that. So set it down, put that piece there, and wrap it around. And try to make sure that this, how I'm doing it is I'm putting the smaller piece inside of the two outside ones. And you see that right now this isn't lined up, so we want to make sure it lines up. So I'm going to move it a little bit. And now it's lined up. And put that collar on there. And now we have a rectangle. We're going to do the exact same thing. Obviously, the other way you could have done the rectangle is you could have put them on top like that. But I chose this way. There's really not a wrong way. I was feeling this way. And I'm going to do the exact same thing we literally just did and make a second rectangle. So if you're feeling a little overwhelmed, it's about to get very you're going to start to get some reward for what you've been working for. I'm a person that when I build, I want to see what I'm building along the way. And at this point, you're just sitting there saying, I'm messing around with pieces of paper and tape. I don't see it. I don't understand why this is going this way. But it's going to get a lot clearer in just a minute once we finish this edge. And the tape doesn't have to be perfect. You just want to, that's what these collars are for, is just kind of putting it there. And there'll be a little catty corner, which just means they're not perfectly straight. That's fine at this point. But we're going to now build the rest of that structure. So with these, to make a rectangle, we're going to put 4 of these on here. And how I like to do it is I get a long piece of tape and I'll put it right there. So it's coming through at this angle of the rectangle piece, and then I hold this piece on, and I'm just trying to get a little bit of tape on there. It's not going to look pretty at this point, and then that collar is going to be what really makes it strong. And even by strong, it's not strong. We're starting to go 3-dimensional. We've been 2-dimensional, and we're about to go 3-dimensional. So again, we're going to do this edge. There's only 4 edges, so we're almost we're almost about to have a real shape. Just remember that first piece of tape, its sole purpose in life is not to be super strong. It's just to put a little bit of tape on that so it stands up while you go get your hand and put that collar on. And the collar doesn't have to be super tight either. What's going to happen is once they're all joined together, it gets a lot stronger really quick. And if you ever feel like your pipe is flat like this, you can just push on it and make it pop back up, because folded paper or flat paper is not going to be strong paper. You want to have a pipe. You want it to be a little bit circular. So now we've entered the chair phase. This is what we did in the other video. Now we're going to put the top on. So the easiest way to do that is just the same way we were doing it before, but we're going to flip it the other way. So I'm going to put this piece of tape at that angle right there, and then we're worried only about this first piece. Don't worry about all the other lineups. And you're going to say, wow, this does not feel like what I was doing. We're going to put collar on it. And we have one. It's way off line. That's fine. That's perfectly fine. Now, this is where we start to line it up. And we're just lining them up one by one. One by one. Just one by one. And you'll see we'll put that collar on here. All right, now we just got these two sides. Same way. Put that at that angle. Put that there. And try to get it a little bit up if you can, that part. And then we're going to collar it one more time. And this is our last one. Just trying to get a little bit of stick where the tape will stick to that piece of paper in the right place before I put the collar on. And that collar is really what's making this thing strong. And now you have a rectangular cube here, this three-dimensional object. Now, it's not going to be perfect. It's not super strong. We still got other parts to do, but it's good. If you see this little side off, you can kind of give it a little nudge, but it's still flexible. It's still very breakable, but it is doing much better. So what we want to do is we now want to start making the ramp. So this is where we're going to start to it's going to need to be a little precise. So I have my instruction here, and we set aside, oh, see, I already messed up. I set aside the ramps, and there's actually an extra piece just in case you do this. We should have put this ramp at the bottom of it. We didn't. That's fine. Not a big deal. We'll come back and get it later. But what we will do is one of these will be the top ramp. So it needs to be at a precise height. So if you look on this guide, it says ramp pipe height, brace pipe height. This is the brace pipe. So it needs to be, and it doesn't need to be the width of this circle. It just needs to be at that height so that the ramp pipe will be on top of it. So we're going to get a long piece of tape, and I'm visualizing this as the back side of my structure, and it's actually a little wider than I like, so I'm going to trim it down just a hair, and I'm going to set it right there, but we're going to check it. So I'm going to put it right here. Sorry if my head got in the way. And that's about that height if this was the ground level. So that seems to be about the correct height. I'm going to tape this for a side. We'll come back and check it once it's standing. And then on this other side, before we go too much higher, I'm going to stand it back up, and I can already see it's at a pretty close height. So it's doing pretty good. It might be a little bit off, but close enough. So we're going to just tape that around and then do a collar. And then this is the back of the ramp. So the front of the ramp should be here if this pipe was there, but it's fine. We have extra ones of these for a reason. So what we're going to do is we're going to take these ramp pipes, and you're going to put it on the outside, so this edge should line up on the outside of the line here, and then it should be on the outside of this line. Now, since I didn't do it there, we're going to have to bring it up and do it in a second. So we're going to build And you want also the folded line to be down because you want the ice cream, this is a dispenser, you want the ice cream to slide. So I'm going to come right in here, line it up, and fold that. Make sure there's no sticky parts. You don't want any sticky parts on your ramp to stop the ice cream from sliding. And then I'm going to go ahead and do the other one while I'm at this stage. We're going to put it right in here. I got aggressive. Okay, let's put that right there. And it has room for movement. So now you have these two pipes, and you see they're going to come, if I set that right in there, this one's going to come right about here. So it'll come right about there. Now, if I had done the line, I could have just used the line, but I didn't. So we're just making it work. And that part's going to be there. I could have also trimmed that off if I wanted to, but that's about how you want it to look. So you see the ramp, it has an angle. So when the ice cream comes down, it's going to slide. That's all you're going for. Those little guides are measured to be exactly the right dimension. So then we have a pipe. Now I should have used one of the other pipes, but we're gonna do the lever pipe. What we want, so on this instruction guide, you see there's another height for lever pipe. So I'm gonna go ahead and put this one right here, and I'm gonna put the guide up there, and I can already tell I'm high. I am high. That's about right. Yep, that's about right. And you want to go to the bottom of the structure, so that's about right. And sometimes it'll just sit right in there. And again, since the lever is going to sit on top of here, I'm going to rotate that over so that way it doesn't have the folded part of the pipe, which could create some friction, or it would create resistance. It would make it hard to turn, because if you're familiar with a car, we're going to create an axle. So this is how you should look. We have this pipe here. This is our lever pipe. So our lever is going to sit in here, and it's going to spin the ice cream out for us. So we have our lever roll edge. So we set this aside earlier just because we had a lot of paper and tape going on. So we're going to cut this. And how you can also, if you wanted to make sure you don't cover up which piece is which, you can put a piece of tape over it facing up, over the words, and then that way when you do your double fold and roll, double fold and roll, you'll see that part is there. Now, since this is the lever pipe, I'm going to put a piece of tape on the ends on each side, and that lever pipe is going to sit right in here, like that. But to make the lever work, there's a system you'll see right here that's going to spin. We're creating this spinning wheel. So this is our lever, and it has an end, some lever straps. So with our lever straps, we're going to cut our lever straps. They're very thin, and this isn't a fold line. I know it looks like a fold line. It's actually a cut line. So I'm cutting out both lever straps. So there's two. And then I'm going to come back, and I'm going to cut right down the middle very carefully. That's kind of a tight one right there. And there's my two lever straps. But before we can do that, let's go ahead and make our lever, which is the actual mechanism that's going to hold it. So I'm going to try, I actually haven't tried this one. These are 3 blade fans. We have 5 in total. So with these blade fans, we're going to fold. So let's go ahead and fold. So there's a fold, and then a second fold. And it's okay if it's a little bit over. And then I'm going to tape each one. So I'm going to tape, this is our first blade. This is our second blade. And it's kind of like a fan blade. It's the best way to phrase it. And then I'm going to cut it right here. Say cut. Cut. So we now have 3 fan blades, and there's 5 total. So we have 2 more over here. So we're going to come and cut this off too. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to do, this is just 2 on this page. So we'll tape there, and cut. So we have 5. And then we have, similar to our fan blades, these are our handle, and they are our lever tool. So these have 5 folds, not just 3 folds. So we're going to take that, and I'm not hitting that precisely. It doesn't have to be super precise on this one. So those are just more guides, and I put 2 pieces of tape, one for this is our end stop, and then this is our lever handle. So our lever handle is going to be this handle out here, and the end stop's this portion right there. And these are our blades. So how we do that is, I'm going to go ahead and start with the lever handle. So to get that lever handle in here, and this is a tricky part. This is why it's advanced. We're going to come in, and I'm going to cut right in between the pipe. So you might have to flatten your pipe. And I'm going to give it a little bit of a cut. So I only went about 1 inch in. And go far. And actually, I'm gonna make this our end handle. Having seen what I'm doing, and I'm going to go a little bit further. So I'm going about halfway. So what we're going for here is this pipe's going to sit here. We're going to put a fan blade. So we'll put one of our fan blades right in here. So you might have them kind of start to frilly out. So you gotta hold the space, make it like a monster eating. And we're gonna put that fan blade there. So that actually will position pretty well. So what we'll do once we have the fan blade in position is I'm gonna tape this side of it back. So we want to bring the pipe back to a pipe form. So put a piece of tape right next to it, and then we want to make sure that this is taped down. So that's about even. So I'm going to put a piece of tape here just to hold that, and I'll put a piece of tape here just to hold it this way. And try to make sure your tape doesn't get off the sides. And imagine it going like this here, and we'll put an end piece. So this is our end. This is just a stop guide to make sure that it doesn't, you don't accidentally pull the handle out. And I'm going to put a piece of tape here around the edge, and I'm just going to flatten it. That's fine. And let's just make sure we don't have any sticky pieces sticking out. There we go. So now it'll look kind of like this. So what we need to do is we'll finish, before we put these straps on there, we'll finish this mechanism. So all we do to do that is we're going to fold the blade. So just fold that in half. We already taped the blades, and then I'm going to take a piece of tape, put it on the end, and this is our existing blade. We're just going to put that tape piece over. I'm going to put a piece of tape on this side, and put a piece of tape on that side, and then we'll do the same. So we now have one of our 4 fan blades. So it kind of looks like maybe a propeller if you're familiar with a boat, except it doesn't turn. So, and like a car. So I told you, a car has an axle, and it will turn a wheel. So this is an axle that we built, and it's turning this what I call a fan blade. And all we're doing with this fan blade is we're just making sure that it's taped at each of these edges and over the top of the corner, just so that it's nice and strong. Don't overdo it with the tape on this, because if you overdo it, it will not. The ice cream will stick to your wheel, and it won't dispense. It won't come out correctly. And now we just got our last one. So this is the place for the last one. Even though it looks like it's already there, we want one there just so it's, this makes it a little bit sturdier too. And you want to make sure you're lining up the left to right so that they're not coming over, because the hole we have for this to go in is not too big. It has to fit perfectly. And so there we go. So this will be kind of where it looks like. And you can see it turns So now we're going to deal with the lever straps. So I'm going to go ahead and get a lever ramp strap. I'll put some tape on it like this. And this is maybe one of the hardest parts. So we've come to the hardest part, in my opinion. We got to make sure this blade is in between these two ramps. And then you also got to make sure it's the same height. So you'll see it won't quite fit on this bar. That's why we have this bar here, is we want it to support there. And so this is about where I'm feeling it holds for me. Everyone's going to be a little bit different. And then we're going to just tape this ramp strap a little bit above it. Like that. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put the other strap at the same location on this side. And this is where it gets tricky. You have two ramp straps and you don't want them too tight, but you got to have them tight enough. So in fact, I already feel like that was a little too tight for me. So I'm going to put a piece of tape here and try and get it. You want to make sure it's loose enough where it can still turn, but not tight enough where it's going to bottle up. So I put that one there, and then this one I'm going to put right here. Once you get that first one down, now you see it's held together and it spins. Now I can already tell a little bit, I had a little too much space. So I can come back up now and I can tape a little bit more of my lever straps, my lever ramp straps. So we're just going to do that. And now actually that feels way better. I can already feel it. And I'm going to trim this little piece of excess tape off. I just don't want it to touch the edge. And then for our handle, all we're going to do, I personally like to just peel the tape in half, and we'll put the lever on this side. So it's just like this, and I'm going to put a collar, a very thin collar on it. And then now when I turn this, you see, this is the coolest part, in my opinion, of the whole project. Even though it doesn't look the coolest, this is what makes it function. So now you have this wheel, and when the ice cream sits in there, pops it out. When it's sitting in there, pops it out. But we're not finished. While we have the mechanism, we now have to make sure that it falls just in the right space, because right now it may not fall in there. So we're going to start to do a little bit more. So we're going to choose our backside. So I'm going to choose the cookies and cream as our backside. And when I say backside, it's the side with the ramp bar. And I'm going to go ahead and put the ice cream tower logo here. And we're going to line it up to the top and bottom, like so. Make sure we get a good piece of tape on the side here, piece of tape here. I typically will let you do your corners at home, but that gets us our back. The reason we need our back is the ice cream has to be in a specific place for this to work. So we're going to come back to our guide. So we have this cut guide, and we're just going to cut right down through here like this, and then the rest are folds. So this is going to help the ice cream go to the correct spot, because we want it to dispense. So we're just cutting. So this is our, alrighty. So now we're going to fold it. So I'm going to make the choice that we're going to see all these words inside the structure, which means I'm going to fold this one towards me right here, this line. And then I'm going to fold the small line, this line, away from me, because that's going to tape to the structure itself. I suppose you could do it the other way too. And then same on this other way, is this line is going to fold towards me. And I can see through my paper. I can see the line, so I'm pretty close to it. And it doesn't have to be super perfect. And then this one is going to fold away from me. So it's what I call a chute. It makes a chute for the ice cream. So it'll look like this. So when the ice cream comes in, it kind of stays in that place. So with this, that chute's going to sit right in here if you're looking for straight on. And it'll kind of sit like this. or like that on the top. So when that ice cream comes, boom, it's right in the right location. So one thing on the chute is you want to tape these to the pipe edges here. So I'm taping this right side to this pipe edge here. And you see, there's some science to it. It does hold correctly at the right points. That brace bar is a little bit higher than it is for the ramp bar. And then the last thing is we had that other piece. This is our last one. We're going to now put that in right here. This is a little tall, so I'm going to trim it down. And I kind of leave this for you to adjust exactly where you want the that to be, because I'm going to tape that guide to it, because you see right now on the overhead camera that guide is not in the center like I want it to be. You can really move it around like I'm doing, and that's because it's not taped anywhere. So by adding this little brace bar, I can put a piece of tape right back here, kind of center it back up, kind of push it back to where I want it, come around, put that piece of tape there, and now functionality wise, I don't know if that looks cool from up top, it can sit, you have multiples, and then from the front side here you can put that in, and they come out one at a time. So that kind of holds them together. So the last step is we're gonna make it pretty. That's maybe the funnest step. This is where this is what we've been waiting for the whole time. So I'm gonna cut the top out. So this will be the top of our ice cream dispenser. I always like to start with the top because that's the part that has to be at a certain place for the ice cream to go in. So once I cut this top out here, this is a 3-inch circle. So we're just gonna come in here, fold it in half, do a little cut. We're gonna come around. And I'm doing it a little bit quicker than maybe you are. So it's not gonna be the prettiest, but there we go. And now there's a small side. That small side you're going to want towards that back, because that's where the ice cream is going to come in. And you're going to want to kind of adjust this top accordingly to make sure it fits in your chute, since you have that chute in there. And so this is about where mine's going to sit. And I'm taping the edges here. And once those, and you can tape the corners when you want, but I'm going to go ahead and tape the chute in, so that way that chute stays open enough for, and it's okay to not have it touch. If the sticky side's on this side, it's not a problem. And then if you put it with your cone station, this is a good diagram for it. So a lot of times I'll put the cone station on the non-lever side. So we'll just put that here, and you see these panels just make it look so much better. It actually looks like a complete project. And I didn't put that one high enough. So sometimes you have to adjust it as things go, because it's not quite exactly where you wanted it. And because it's kind of coming off on the edges, I'm going to put a piece of tape there. And yours will look a fair bit better, I'm sure, than mine. I'm going to put some edge pieces here. And we'll do, I always like the rainbow on the front of the tower. I don't know why. Just always makes it look nice and yummy. So we'll put that right on the front. Now, one thing is, this is also the dispenser side. So we have to remember, I'm going to create a fold. And you could cut this off, but I like to have it as a fold, so that way when the ice cream comes out, it'll just pop out as though it's coming from a vending machine or something similar to that. So that fold, but you could, on my one behind me there, I folded it like this, so that way I could unfold it if I wanted to. So And then I could just put a little piece of tape on it like that so you can see the system. And then this is our last piece for the coverage. I'm just going to line it up. So what I'm doing is I'm lining it up here to see where I need to cut. So that's about where I need to cut with the lever. And we're just going to cut it up to where about that lever is. And before I finish that cut, I'm going to go ahead and tape this right here so that I'm not cutting and it's moving. And then I'm just going to cut a little hole out for where the lever is. And there we go. That's pretty good. And that's going to be that side there. I have to kind of set those down. Put some tape there, some tape there. And wow, I don't know how long this video is, but it's a lengthy project. But now you have it. You're completed. You can put your ice cream in. You can have it come out. And so you put the ice cream in, and then you just spin it, and boom, it comes right out. Helps if I'm not holding it backwards. So I hope you enjoyed the project. I think it turned out pretty cool. Thank you so much for crafting with me today. I hope it brought you joy and helped your creativity grow. Always remember, you matter and you are valued. I look forward to creating our next craft together very soon. Goodbye.